Test cases are probably the most important element of a TMS because they are going to represent the exact scenarios that the engineer should go through when performing testing. So let's take a look at those in case and see what they consist of. First of all, as we have seen before, the test cases in the repository are found under the suites they are located in. And clicking a test case in the repository will open up the sidebar on the right, where you can review all the details of that test case in question. Also from the sidebar, you can go and edit a test case. You can create a clone of it, or you can delete it. Clicking an ID on the test case will take you to the view screen of that case, where you can find a bit more information actually. For example, if this case was used for creating a clone, or if it was a clone itself. A few extra bits of information include the test run results that has been recorded against this test case. Also, the full changelog of the case in question can be viewed at any point. Any defects that have been filed as a result of performing this test case will be found here too, and comments that your peers might have left about the test case will also be found here. But how about creating a new test case? Well, there are two main methods to create a test case, and the first one is really great for when you're just building a draft, building a rough structure of your library. That way you would just need to create a case by hitting this button below the suite and enter its title. No additional information will be needed at that point, so if you're not ready to fill out all the other parameters of your test case, you won't have to. You would just go through the list, insert those titles, and then you can go back to them and fill out all the other details. However, if you are ready to create a test case and fill it out with all the details right away, you can hit that button plus case above the repository, and you will be taken to the creation form. It is broken down into several sections. The first two of them, basic and conditions, are the ones that are pre-configured for you. So we provided with those fields and values by default. You cannot really change them, but you can change which ones you want to use and which ones you don't. So for instance, if you are not planning to use priority, if you rely only on severity, you will go into configure fields area, scroll to the bottom of the screen until you see the test case fields section. And there you will turn on and off those fields that you plan to use or don't plan to use. Don't forget to update the settings for those changes to be applied. Now going back to the creation form, let's scroll further and we will see the custom fields area. Of course, with the default fields, it is not possible to fetch any and every piece of information you might want to fetch about those test cases. So for that, we'll allow you to create your own custom fields in order to capture that important information. I'm going to speak about custom fields in a bit more detail in one of the next videos, so look out for that. For now, just let's remember that the custom fields are found in a specific area of the creation form. Now moving further, we have the attachments area, and it allows you to do exactly what it says, add attachments to your test case. So if you want to add some extra context for the engineer when they're working on a test case, you can add attachments here. You can upload a file from your local computer, or you can browse from the list of files you have uploaded into your account so far, and just use one of those instead of uploading it twice. And finally, we're getting to the step to reproduce section, which is going to be the exact scenario that the engineer should go through when they're performing a test case. There are two options here. You can add a step and add a shared step. For now, let's stick with adding just a regular step because there will be a dedicated video about shared steps and how to use them. For now though, let's just add a step here. Every step has got 3 fields to itself. The first one, action, is a mandatory one, of course, while input data and expected results are optional. So in action, we define what a user should do, what an engineer should do when they are getting to work on this particular test case. So let's say they need to authorize into internal system. In the input data, I will put in the login and password that they should use. An expected result will be a desired outcome. So it should be something along those lines. Authorization was successful. Now, every step to reproduce can have its own individual attachment, not connected to the overall test case attachment. So if you want to give extra context about this particular step, maybe a screenshot, maybe some kind of a file, you can do that too. You can create a clone of a step if you want to make another step that is pretty much the same but with some minor changes, and you just want to introduce those minor changes rather than retyping everything from scratch. And also, if something changes along the way and the step becomes redundant, you no longer need to do it within that test case, you can always delete it. You can change the order of the steps in the test case by dragging them around the board and establishing your row in order that fits the scenario better. The last option I skipped over is the shared step option, but again, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about the shared steps in a bit more detail in one of the later videos. Once everything is done, I can opt to save my test case, save and create another, and there is also an option to send to review, so look out for a video about the case reviews where I'm going to cover that functionality in a broader detail. For now, let's save this test case, and when I'm trying to do that, it's going to take me to the field that I left empty, and it is actually a required one, so title is required, of course. So I'm going to name it something along those lines, and actually, if I try to save it now, it's going to highlight all the custom fields that are mandatory, but that I left empty, so I'll have to fill them out too. Now we're done. I can go ahead and save my test case. Now it is found in here because when configuring a test case, I did not specify any suite that it should belong to. So that's about it about the test cases. Now let's move on further and take a look at other features and what else can be done within case.